Hi everyone, welcome to today's sharing on Philippines. So in this talk, I will share about why Philippines is a fantastic property investment, right? I sincerely believe that Philippines could be the Japan of the future, and it has already showed signs twice in its recent resurgence that it could easily be the Japan of the future with a very strong economy, a very motivated people, and of course, a very beautiful rising real estate market. I'm Sky Teng here. I'm the best-selling author of Real Wealth Real Estate. I've featured in a couple of news before. In general, my predictions have been quite correct. And I am now explaining about Philippines and hope you enjoy this particular talk. Now, why do I say that in Philippines could be a great property investment location, right? Why do we want to invest in Philippines? Because locally here, um, in Singapore, in a very one of the more advanced economies of the world, we have a problem, right? Locally, we have high taxes, right? Additional buyer stamp duty, high taxes that prevents us from investing in any other residential property, in any other property really, right? Without incurring massive taxes. Being an advanced economy, we don't have a lot of major growth factors in sight right now. We have nothing really to look forward to right now. Yet we suffer one of the highest interest rates that we have seen for a really long time because of inflation, right? And to top it off, the world situation seems really unpredictable, causing many investments, many locations to be quite terrifying to invest, right? So making anywhere from shares to crypto to properties in many countries a bit terrifying to invest. As a result, we are saving more and more, and we're sitting on this huge pile of money that's being eroded by inflation, yet we don't have a good location to invest. Until I started scouting around and I found Philippines, right? So what can we do, right? Most of us already live in homes, right? We don't need to buy a second home just as a holiday home, right? We don't need that. We already have a home that works for us, right? Works for ourselves. What we really want is a good, stable investment, right? And we want to buy property at 2011 prices, yet have 2021 growth, right? We want to counter current high interest rate, and ideally, we don't really want to be involved in an unstable war situation inside a war-torn country. So what can we do, right? Is it even possible? Well, I would like to introduce the Philippines, right? Philippines is the number one property market in the world in year 2023, okay? It went up 21.2%. Manila went up 21.2% in one single year. That's incredible, right? However, even if it's incredible, no matter how incredible it is it sustainable? That is something I care about a little more because ideally, I don't just want to invest for the moment, I want to invest for years, right? And when we look at it, it seems highly probable that Philippines can sustain this growth, right? It grew roughly about 6.4% per annum per year, before the 2020 pandemic. And after the pandemic in 2021, it grew 5.7%, then 7.6%, then 5.6%, suggesting that Philippines and the Filipino people have shown the ability to come back up after meeting a unprecedented world-class world crisis. Property prices there have went up 8.68% pre-pandemic per annum, right, per year, right? From 2011 to 2018, from 2011 to 2018, before the pandemic, right? Went up 8.68% per annum. And in after the pandemic, right, after 2020, it went up 4.9%, 6.5%, then 7.7%. This shows that the people there, the Filipino people themselves, strongly believe that their property prices, their economy will continue growing, that they can afford a better home, pushing their property prices up. Because by law in Philippines, more than 60% of any property is definitely owned by Filipinos. So this is definitely driven by their own local population, which is a great sign, right? You know that these guys are going to be Philippines for a really long time, being Filipinos themselves. And the more we dig, the more beautiful the story becomes because the red boxes are the demand, the yellow boxes are the supply. And we noticed that since 2021, after the pandemic, demand has been growing year after year, right? From 13,000 to 20 to 23. This year, in 2024, we expect roughly about 27,000 units to be sold in Manila itself. Pre-pandemic, they were selling 40,000 units a year, right? They're selling 40,000 units a year. Yet, because Philippine government is fairly cautious, they have quite a thick bureaucracy. Supply has consistently been quite low. So even if developers in Philippines want to build more houses, it's not so simple, it's not so easy. Permits are not easy to be issued, and payment terms favor buyers greatly instead of the developers. For example, you could pay as little as 10 or 20% down payment to secure a condominium that is being built and pay nothing until the home is fully completed and you receive the key to move in. Such terms are almost unheard of anywhere else in the world, except in Philippines. And this is actually greatly beneficial to any buyer because cash flow wise is fantastic and we are no longer affected by interest rates during the years where the property is being built. Now, how did Philippines achieve this consistent growth before and after the pandemic, right? That is because internally, Philippines has grown increasingly safe. They have grown increasingly stable politically as well. And they are working very hard. They are welcoming foreign investors. They're welcoming foreigner, and they're welcoming expats in as best as they can. Externally, people are also interested in investing in Philippines. They are willing to put their money where their mouth is. And there's also the presence of foreign military willing to protect Filipino soil so that any investment made in the Philippines will not be lost easily by these MNCs when they perform their external investments. Lastly, Philippines has shown this propensity to bounce back and this ability to improve and attract, right? This is really, really amazing. And when you start hearing them performing this, does it sound really familiar? Doesn't it sound like one of these five countries, these like Singapore, like Japan, like UK and China and Vietnam more recently, isn't it? Doesn't it sound familiar? All these countries, these five countries plus Philippines, all have the same common story, right? That other least successful countries simply do not have, right? They all had conflicts at the start, which united the people. And then internally, they wanted to improve. Externally, they had friends. And then even when they have crises, they showed the same internal strength to bounce back, right? Hence, every single one of these six countries, right? Singapore, Tokyo, London, China, and Vietnam, right? This five countries that are already major economic powerhouses in the world today. And now it's going to happen in Philippines, right? So how does having a conflict help? How does having a conflict help? It helps by creating the first two ingredients of success that any country or any city requires to grow exponentially, to grow very successfully. It creates the internal motivation within its people to want to improve, it creates the internal motivation among its politicians to want to improve, and externally, it gives opportunities that investors are willing to invest inside and they are welcoming to external military stabilizing their area, right? There are also two other ingredients which I'll share later on in this video uh, to motivate you all to watch to the end, yeah, okay? So internal unity, right? Internally, it creates unity between the people and the political leaders to want to improve their country, correct? And it also creates that willingness and desire for that people of that conflict area to want to grow and rebuild, right? So that the country is motivated to change externally, right? As long as there's nobody trying to influence the politics in that country too badly, external investments and security support will start coming in. And if they do come in, it is then possible for the country to improve. Correct? This was actually the issue with Myanmar. Myanmar had the conflict, right? The internal unity, they wanted to progress and everything. Externally, they had investment started coming in, but they did not have the security support. Hence, the country suffered their current fate of having a coup in 2021, I believe, with many foreign investments just to invest. But having local unity, right, internal unity and external support and external security is now happening in the Philippines, right? It's now happening in Philippines. Internally, right? The Filipino people are getting more and more united, right? And because the people are getting more united, the stability will be there because they will appoint one single tough leader, right? To make their place a bit safer, to make their place welcome to foreign investments and stability. So it's the same story, okay? On the left, it's Singapore, on the right, it's current Philippines, right? This is Singapore back in the 1960s, where we had communists being a very real threat to local safety, local security, local stability, and Singapore was in a state of emergency. Filipinos today are united by the South China Sea issue, which leads to them creating this strong internal political stability. On the left, we see in the 60s, the Singaporeans started voting en masse Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and his PAP party. Today, we are seeing a landslide victory from Mr. Bongbong Marcos in the Philippines. And then this strong leader, right? This strong leader will then stand up for the will of the people and then clear up crime within their own countries, right? Look how Mr. Marcos dropped crime majorly, right? From 107,000 major crimes in 2017 to just 38,000 crimes in 2023. So in space of 6 short years, they dropped crime by 66%. This is amazing, right? This is amazing. And he's still fighting crime today, right? This is amazing. I haven't seen any territory, any country, any state, any city reduce their crime that quickly, that efficiently over such a short period of time. Okay, dropping 66% in basically 6 years, right? Is Singapore going through the same thing back in the 70s? Yeah, they went through the same thing. They removed gangs, they removed strikes back in the 60s. Hence, 70s was a golden era for Singapore to bloom and blossom all the way to the 80s, all the way to the 90s. Did Japan had to do this as well? Yes, right? After the war in the 50s, they started having huge gangs called Yakuza, right? Controlling parts of the economy even. Yet they cleared that up, and today we barely hear about the Yakuza, right? Same for Korea, same for China, same for Vietnam, same for London, same for Germany. Same story, right? Same story. It's happening in the Philippines as well. Internally, are they willing to attract investments or not? Are they willing? Are they welcoming to foreigners coming in to help them, right? Singapore started the EDB in 1961. Today, we see Mr. Marcos going around Australia. This is not the only article. They go to Australia, they went to Singapore, he went to Japan, he went to EU, he went to America. Each time, each trip, he brings in billions and billions of dollars back to Philippines in terms of opening up new offices, in terms of opening up new factories, creating huge employment for the Filipino people and increasing their salary. With increased salaries, the Filipino people can then buy better homes, which is where we come in, right? Same story, the Japanese did the same thing. On the left is an article in the Atlantic, an American magazine. Okay, so back in the 1950s, after the war, right, the Japanese built a fake America in the middle of Japan, encouraged the Japanese to go out and enjoy this fake America, take photos of them, use these photos to set up a advertisement in an American magazine called The Atlantic to show the American people, the Japanese people are welcoming of the Americans to come in and invest in them. Very different from the Japanese today, but you know, same story, at the start, when you're motivated to want to improve, that is what you do. You welcome foreigners. Majority of Filipinos now, they themselves are welcoming of foreigners, right? Their president is the one going outside getting business back in. Correct. But all talk and no walk is no point, correct? So what they did the Filipinos did was to also change their laws to make it more welcoming to foreign investment. Right? They removed certain punitive laws that did not allow foreign ownership, full foreign ownership of a company in Philippines. They did not. They weren't. They had old laws that limited ownership of properties, but all these have been released as of 3 years ago, right? And this is actually quite amazing because this shows that they are willing to walk the talk and not just do what other people are doing. They are actually putting words into action that they're truly welcoming foreigners, and we see that in the rise in foreign investments. Correct? And not just that, because if you want to have foreign investments come in, you need to give these foreign companies the ability to protect their investments, right? Shared just now, Myanmar did not have it. Most of the independent countries after World War II, the new independent countries after World War II did not have this. Hence, a lot of investments failed. Then a lot of these countries did not come up. Philippines is now learning from these lessons. Japan, after World War II, allowed the Americans to open bases in Japan, protecting their investments. Hence, American investments flowed in. Philippines today are allowing Americans to come in and open bases, protecting these foreign investments as well, right? So just now I talk about internal, right? Internally, the Filipinos are willing to improve. Internally, the Filipinos want to expand and develop their country. However, internally, you may want something, but if externally you don't have the help, it's very unlikely you can succeed. This is not much different from, let's say, a person trying to lose weight, right? Personally, internally, I want to lose weight. I wish to lose 10 kilograms, for example. However, if externally I do not know which diet to follow, I do not have a good personal trainer to guide me, or do not even have a YouTube video to follow on how to start losing weight, or even an article to read how to start losing weight, I will never know how to do it. So externally, you need friends as well, willing to help develop your country, right? Currently, we are seeing the end of China being the world's factory, right? And we are seeing a lot of companies shifting out of China uh, due to ongoing tensions between the West and the Chinese. So they are shifting out their production, they're shifting out their offices out of China. And this becomes the start of Philippines' opportunity to grow by attracting this foreign investment, not just in terms of factories, but the Filipinos in particular are very famous for their BPO, business processing outsourcing. So the Filipinos, because they are fairly well educated, in fact, most of them have gone to college, local colleges, and they are fluent in English. They are extremely suited in doing BPO, right? What is BPO? BPO is basically performing the functions, the back end functions of most companies for them at a reduced cost. So Filipinos are now performing your HR, your customer support, they're performing IT development, they are providing this back-end support to most major companies in the world. And this creates a huge amount of employment within the Philippines. At the same time, it saves money for these MNCs. Right? Externally, as I shared, USA has been allowed to open new bases to protect these new investments. This has been fantastic because we know that if there is security in that manner, very, very likely Philippines will be able to sustain their growth because these MNCs will start planning to stay for decades, not just for years. For example, Singapore went through the same thing. We signed a couple of military alliances. We are very welcoming towards American forces being in Singapore, for example. Um, Israeli forces have once visited here as well. And as a result, a lot of MNCs dare to plant their expensive factories and refineries in Singapore, bringing billions and billions and billions of dollars in Singapore to Singapore every single year for decades. And I'm seeing this happening in Philippines, right? You already see as early as 2024, right? They are bouncing back. Not only they are bouncing back, not only Filipinos are bouncing back, they have already surpassed, more developed countries like Malaysia and Thailand in terms of attracting investment. All right, and this is not written by Filipinos, it was written by Americans saying that they themselves seeing that American companies investing in Philippines is actually good for America with regards to the trade war with China. Externally, right? No, these investments, these many companies, right, from Google to Kawasaki to Nike to Amazon to Wells Fargo, they have opened in Philippines or increased their investment in Philippines after the pandemic. This shows how attractive Philippines is as an investment, right? And that they dare to increase their investments because they feel secure being where the American government is. And they feel secure being in a place where they are actually being welcomed, both the Europeans and the Americans. This has brought in quite significant boost in their foreign direct investments. And in particular, I love this article very much, which mentions about US, which comes from the US Department of State, the US government website itself, having pushed American companies to invest into Philippines. So the American government themselves endorse American companies to go to the Philippines with their full blessing. So internally, the Filipinos are welcoming. Externally, their friends are pushing their own companies to invest in the Philippines. This is a beautiful story that you can see happening for a very long time. If both sides are willing investor and willing receiver, right? This article down here, these orange colored dots here are basically new military bases that America has been allowed to set up to protect their investments in the Philippines. And you notice that firstly, Manila is not near the bases, right? Not near the bases, even though they have existing bases here, the black ones. Manila is not near the not near the new bases, so it's far and safe. Number one. Number two, is located somewhere in the middle, so it's pretty safe. So you can now safely invest within Manila as well, without too much concern. And we can also further invest maybe southern side later on, right? But Manila's location is fantastic. However, to succeed for the long term, okay, if you want Philippines to succeed for the long term, they can't just have internal motivation and external help. They must actually show the ability to be able to bounce back, ability to rebuild after an economic crisis. They have to show consistency, right? The Filipinos have to show consistency. Again, I wish to highlight, right, that Manila, Philippines, becoming the number one world market in the world did not happen 10 years ago, did not happen 5 years ago. It happened after the pandemic. It happened despite massive growth in Dubai. It happened despite massive growth in tourism in Japan. It happened despite massive growth in Vietnam. That Manila is now the number one market in the world, right? It grew 21% in a single year. It shows that Philippines has been able to grow again and attract the foreign direct investments, able to clock record high economic growth, and they are projected to continue keeping such a high level, 6.5% to 7.5% in 2024. Right? They are able to attract all these MNCs after the pandemic to either increase, set up shop in Philippines. This is amazing. This shows that even when times have turned bad in Philippines, they will continue to pick themselves up. Externally, their friends will continue having confidence in them that after the bad times, the good times will come back to the Philippines again. So when you invest in the Philippines from the eye of an investor, not only am I looking at a market that is growing, that's upcoming, I feel safe in the event that when there is an economic crisis, when something bad happens to the Philippines, happens to the place where I invested my money, that it will eventually rise up again, right? And it will rise up really big in a huge way to the point where they're number one in the world, right? We all been there before that where a certain investment may have gone awry, and we secretly pray that investment comes back, but we are never ever sure whether the investment will come back. Today, we are looking at Philippines showing the world that they are able to bounce back, that they can do it. And they follow even their predecessors in Japan and Singapore. They follow their predecessors in London. And more magically, they have all four things to succeed. Correct? The number four thing is that the government has to be smart enough, the Philippine government has to be smart enough to not try and develop the entire Philippines at one go, but to focus on one area first, right? Same formula, Singapore, focus on Jurong, to create up their industrial city first. Korea invested in Seoul. Japan invested in Tokyo first. Correct? Even China focused on Shanghai, then Beijing. Correct? Even China, such a massive country, when they open up, they would they knew that the secret to success was to pin all your resources into one area in your country, which was Shanghai, right? Vietnam, same thing, was Ho Chi Minh City. UK, same thing, they pinned all their hopes on London, right? Today, we see a huge peninsula called Philippines, which have pinned all their hopes into one single city, Manila, making it the most dense city in the world. Japan, we see them pin all their hopes in Tokyo. It became the biggest city in the world. Korea, we see them pin all their hopes in Seoul. And we see Seoul become the most technologically advanced city in the world. The same thing is happening to the Philippines for sure. I show you one last statistics that made me so confident, right? So this is actually basically the growth of Philippines, right? The growth of Philippines, of property prices. The economy growth, the economy trend looks extremely similar. So we see in 2011, right, when the conflict in South China Sea started, where they started saying that, hey, it's time for us to stand up for ourselves, time for us to improve, time for us to protect ourselves, time for us to stand up for the Filipino man to stand up for himself. 2011 all the way to 2019, they were growing. They were growing and growing and growing until the pandemic hit, they hit a crisis. Correct? The question always is whether the crisis they are able to grow or not. So far in these 3 years, they showed their propensity to come back up and grow again in 2011, 2022, and 2023. 2024 is they're growing as well. This is extremely similar to Japan's one, where after the war, they cleared up the Yakuza, they started growing. They said that it's time for us to grow again, just in case of the tension in North Asia at the period of time. And they grew spectacularly, right? They grew spectacularly all the way to 1970s, where they hit the oil crisis. After the crisis, they started focusing on themselves, showed the ability to bounce back, focus on one city, Tokyo, and they grew and they grew and they grew, right? Philippines right now, we are here at the start of stage two, the ability to regrow again. Has shown for 3 years the ability to regrow again. They are definitely going to copy Japan's footsteps. This is also basically the same graph as Singapore. This is basically a very similar graph in Korea. This is basically a very similar graph in China, Vietnam, London, Germany. You know, basically every single success stories in the past 5 decades. I know some of you are still skeptical, right? You're wondering, I've heard this before, somebody's flogging somebody's excited about some developing country again. Always saying that, oh, the lowest fruits are the easiest to pick. If it's so good, why is Philippines only growing today, right? From what I know, they were independent in 1946, right? Don't tell me in the past 70 years they've done nothing. That's not entirely true, right? You are correct that 1946 Philippines was independent, right? They were given this independence by the United States of America, by the Americans. However, the Filipinos themselves did not believe that the Americans truly given them independence. They still felt colonized. For example, the Independence Day that was given by America, that was given by America, set by America, that their Independence Day was to be the 4th of July. So the Filipinos, the 4th of July had no meaning, correct? They did not fight for this independence. They did not gain it as a partner. They did not win their country back. So the day that they truly felt that they won their country back and they were independent by themselves was actually 12th June, more than 100 years ago, where they kicked the Spaniards out from real colonization and stood up for themselves. So they requested the Americans to give them this permission to declare their Independence Day on 12th of June instead. After 15 years of political tussling, they finally managed to get enough political support to finally became a full control of their own country, and they immediately switched their national day to 12th June, right? The day they fought the Spanish and won independence themselves, correct? Until today, they're still keeping the 12th of June as their Independence Day. However, after 15 years of political tussling, unfortunately, there is no conflict at hand. There's no more World War II. There's all the different groups have emerged within Philippines, every single group tugging in a different direction. There has been no unity among the Filipino people, and automatically they failed the first criteria of succeeding as a country, which is internal unity. Until now, in 2011, all the way until today, that they are united once again, right? So the Philippines today, they are united against, once again. Not only they're united, they want to improve, they want to modernize themselves so they can stand up to any threat. So they are welcoming of the West and USA's economic investments. To be fair, they're welcoming of everybody's investments, just that the West and the Americans have acted a little faster. Correct? They are also welcoming of USA's military to protect their investments. Moreover, after so many decades, they, as a people, have become very motivated and very educated, and they are fluent in English, which is arguably the world's language of commerce. All right. So they are an improving country with constantly decreasing crime, with constantly increasing political stability. And today, buying into Philippines, we are investing in stage two, right, of their growth, not stage one, which guarantees a definite promising rise without high risk. This is the image of the Philippines that we know. We view it as an idyllic Pacific nation with beautiful waters and rolling green hills. That is actually real, right? It is actually real in certain parts of the Philippines. However, the Philippines today in Manila also looks like this. This is actually a picture I've taken in May 2023, just last year, showing how developed um, Manila is, right? That it has truly become a metropolitan city with skyscrapers, with good electricity and super fast internet. This is the Philippines today with beautiful show flats. That is definitely on par with Singapore show flats. There is definitely have shopping on par with Singapore's most modern shopping streets as well. This is actually pictures of how their shopping looks like on one of the most modern shopping streets as well. This is actually the food available to anybody. They have buffets, they have top quality Michelin star food located in many, many different neighborhoods of Manila. Right? This shows their rising wealth and income that they are willing to splurge and that retailers are responding to that, right? Because also when we talk about foreign investments, we don't just talk about the confidence of MNCs putting their factories and their offices here. We're also talking about the confidence of retailers being willing to bring in this high quality, expensive ingredients into to serve the local populace who has increasing income. This is our problem, right? We're the poor man in the center. Internally, locally, we are faced with high taxes, we are faced with low growth, we are faced with few opportunities. Externally, there is persistently high inflation, there is high interest rates in an unstable world. I believe Philippines are on par with what has happened in Japan, Vietnam, China, Singapore, etc. They have reached stage two. They have shown the ability to bounce back from a crisis. They are about to start a very, very epic run in both their economy and property prices. This is actually the perfect time to come in because we get to see huge growth with minimum risk, right? So how do I know that Philippines is the solution towards our high inflation, high interest rate problem? Because almost every single Filipino project requires only a small booking fee of maybe 1,000 Singaporean dollars or so, and a 20% down payment on the property price, right? You then need not pay a single cent until the project is ready to move in. And that is the time where you can start selling the property for a huge profit. In fact, Philippine property has been appreciating roughly about 10% per year, right? 21% last year was a record high. Normally, they grow roughly 10 to 12%, right? And you only need to face the high interest rates when the particular condo you are looking at to buy is ready to move in, which can be up to 5 or 6 years later, even, right? There is also minimal cost in owning a Filipino property, right? It's only about 10% upon sales, including all fees and taxes. When you purchase, whatever the purchase price is what you pay. You do not actually pay anything extra. Externally, we're looking at massive growth. Philippines as a country, we see that they bounce back, they're going again. They're growing 7-8% per year in the economy. Their property prices are growing 10+%. It's a fantastic, beautiful place to go in. We see huge MNCs increasing their investment. They've already done the risk analysis. We see foreign armies being placed to protect the Filipinos, being placed to protect the foreign investments, and that these MNCs have already agreed to stay on and expand, correct? And locally here in SRI, we only work with the biggest developers, right? So we got a problem, high inflation, high interest rate, unstable world. Philippines is your solution. Furthermore, it's not like we ourselves, we Singaporeans, do not invest in overseas properties. We ourselves are massive lovers of overseas properties because of the high taxes, high inflation, right? Every year we increase the amount we invest overseas. 2023, we invested 1 billion in overseas investment. As a comparison, we only invest 10 billion in Singaporean property in 2023. So overseas property is roughly about 10% of the local market, right? Yet we have no real presence in the Philippines. We have not identified. We are too passive. A lot of us just simply wait in Singapore and wait for investors, wait for developers to come and approach us as investors, right? Whereas those who are more active than us, like the Japanese, the Germans, the Dutch, they are pouring in with hundreds of billions into Philippines, and yet we have not taken a single bite of this beautiful cherry pie, which is located in our backyard. We are literally in the same neighborhood as the Filipinos. Yet the Germans, the Dutch, the Japanese are investing long range into Philippines, yet we haven't even come in yet. We Singaporeans haven't even come in yet, correct? We Singaporeans invested 412.5 million last year into Southeast Asian property, right? 1 billion in total, right, in 2023. Let's bring some of that to the Philippines, honestly. Once again, Philippines has already surpassed some more developed countries like Malaysia and Thailand. I believe it's continued growing. We can see the statistics is growing year after year. The only time it didn't grow in the past 15 years was that pandemic year, right? Let's give ourselves a new and promising option. And to top it off, I want to introduce my company, SRI, as your Filipino one-stop shop, right? SRI is one of the biggest property agencies in Singapore. We have more than 1,000 agents. We are registered with the government. We are CEA registered, and all our projects have been verified by the government, every single one, right? And because we are verified, we are registered with the government, every single agent you meet with us at SRI is insured, and we are fully trained in all the projects that Philippines has to offer. In fact, we are the only dedicated full-time Filipino team in Singapore and Philippines, right? We are so dedicated. We're the only dedicated team. We're so dedicated that we have full-time, fully run office in Singapore and a fully run team in Philippines. Okay, we sign with every single major Philippine developer, right? We have a permanent office in Singapore. We have a permanent team in Philippines, both which has more than 20 years experience in the property market, led by myself, yours truly, and I am author of the best-selling book in real estate investment, real wealth real estate. And furthermore, we are officially appointed by the developers. We are not some third-party shop, some fourth-party shop. Every single major Philippine developer has signed directly with SRI, appointing us as their official sales agent in Singapore. All right. What does this mean to you as a consumer, right? This means that you're getting the lowest price possible because you're buying directly from the developer. You're getting the people officially by the developer. You're having support anytime, pre-sale, post-sales, during the sales. You're having support all the time, 365 days a year. You need not worry that we will disappear because we've been here for 20-something years. You're not worried that you have to fly over the Philippines, you have to do this and that. We will settle all paperwork and monies, can be done in Singapore. And even all sales, all rental, all tenant management subsequently after you purchase your property can be done by our team in Philippines, right? Should you require a loan, that can also be performed in Singapore. We work with the biggest developers, Ayala Land, Shank Properties. Shank Properties are also the guys behind Shangri-La. Ayala Land is a multi-billion dollar property development firm. Federal Land is also another multi-billion dollar integrated developer. Vista Land as well. SMDC, SM Development Corporation is as well. We only work with the biggest developers in Philippines, and every single one of them are either multi-million or multi-billion developers who have at least a 20, 30-year track record at the very minimum of developing properties in Philippines and completing all their projects, right? Our developer partners are truly, truly massive. Every single one of them easily outsize any Singaporean developer in terms of market capitalization. Even the smallest one, for example, would compare to at least at the very minimum like Hoi Hub, which is a truly good Singaporean developer that has developed multiple condos in Singapore, quality condos in Singapore. The biggest ones are way, way bigger than even our Capital Land or our CDL. So we do not randomly just bring in any developments. We don't just randomly bring any projects on the ground in Philippines. We handpick the best developments and give you the highest return. And as such, a lot of them are able to sell very quickly or rent out very quickly, right? In fact, most of the time that the properties that we've handpicked from these developers have a historic time on the market. It takes roughly about 6 weeks to 8 weeks to sell or rent out their properties, extremely similar to Singapore. And these are all located in Philippines, one of the fastest, the most sustainable economies in the world, where property is undersupplied and over demanded, right? We can see from the previous graph that the supply is barely 1/4 of demand if things continue. Let's profit together. Let's fulfill our mission of bringing you, our clients, a stable and high yield investment. We work with only the biggest developers. We work with multi-million, multi-billion dollar companies. You are dealing directly with the developer. You're guaranteed the lowest prices at a proper, and all of these are overseen and checked for by the Singaporean government, right? Please contact yours truly. I'm Sky here, Sky Tan. You can call me at 9834348, or you can scan that QR code to WhatsApp me today, right?